Tonight, we are going to focus on how organizations, whether they're businesses, NGOs, governments, can turn their fortunes around. Within our own borders, Orangeville has had an alarming rate of business closures over the years, and our own BIA, having a budget of over $500,000 to spend, has consensus that suggests that we are spending in vain. And that is regards to our tax dollars. Orangeville, as well, has been subjected to 12 years of what some people consider uninspired and relatively unproductive thinking coming out of our own council chambers. So tonight, we have three guests with us that are going to address how to better run a business, an organization, and we will explore how important branding is to the whole mix. So gentlemen, welcome to the show. To my left, we have Andres Pone. Andres is a branding professional. He's worked with multinational corporations developing their brands, and he's done it with his own particular methodology. He's also co-author of a Global Mail bestseller, was #1 in the charts for over a year, called Brand, It Ain't the Logo. Is that right?
That's right.
We got it right, for sure. Beside Andres over here, we have Derek Lennox. Derek is a managing partner at, how do you say, Kiewin?
Kiewin, yep.
Kiewin Consulting, and he specializes in turning around growth plans and economic development plans for national organizations, entrepreneurs, and interestingly enough, First Nations. So we know there's a quite, Derek, I made him recognize there's quite an interest in First Nations up here. We know that our mayor took to First Nations during his campaign and made quite an issue of that. So we'll address that as well tonight. Derek is a professional engineer by trade, has his MBA, and lectures for the Schulich School of Business. And you consult to Humber College for the curriculum.
Yes.
And on their advisory committee. And beside Derek, we have Christian McKenna. Christian here lives in town, and by trade, Christian is a Canadian actor and screenwriter, and he's appeared in close to over 100 television commercials, stage performances, films, and television show productions. And your most notable one is the Porsche one, is it not?
I was in Suits as well.
And you're currently in Suits doing some.
Last day on Suits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Christian as well. He runs his own show, his own business called Frickin' Frack.
Yep.
And it's a
sales agency.
Sales agency. And branding for you, obviously, is very, very important because of the competition you're up against. Anyways, let's get to some questions and find out what our panel here has to say about how we can help businesses, people, and organizations do a better job. So, Andres, branding, out of the box. Your title, we got it right here. I don't know if we can get this up. Which camera we want, guys? We'll go one. We're okay. So branding, it's called. Go ahead.
Brand. It ain't the logo. There's a subtitle in there which I could explain. Should I? I'll just go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of. It all starts with the fact that there's very widely held misconceptions about what a brand really is. So, hence the title of the book, Brand, It Ain't the Logo. And I could just tell you a quick story here. If we can think of a reason that Toronto's brand, the city of Toronto, where we are on a municipal affairs program, if we can think of a reason that the city of Toronto its brand has suffered over the past 3 or 4 years, I don't know. Is there a particular issue that can come to mind? Yeah. Okay. People just start laughing, right? People just start laughing. At this point in my presentation, I would show a picture of Rob Ford, and everyone gets it. So, Rob Ford has been very damaging to the brand of the city of Toronto, and the Globe and Mail. Canada's national newspaper said, Toronto's got a brand problem. Let's rebrand Toronto. Let's have a logo contest. And I just want to demonstrate to you the misunderstanding about what a brand really is and what branding is.
So they missed the boat.
Well, they said, let's have a logo contest. And a whole bunch of people, designers, submitted some serious logos, and there was only one designer that actually got it. And he submitted a logo of a circus tent, and it said, Toronto, a Ford Brothers production. Okay? He's the only guy that understands what a brand really is. He understands that a logo isn't going to stop the late-night comedians, the cab driver in L.A., or people all around the world from making fun of Toronto. A logo's not going to do that. It's not going to change what they think. In other words, a brand is what people think of you. That's what really matters, and a logo just makes absolutely no difference to that whatsoever. So that's the starting point for talking about brand. It's what people think of you.
And so has John Tory, in your estimation, changed the brand?
Oh,
Can
big
one
time.
person change the brand?
Big time. Over time, because the cab driver in L.A. or the person in Mumbai or name anywhere in the world has got a certain impression about Toronto in their mind right now, there's a lot of publicity created. And the fact that John Tory has been elected and is now, carrying out his duties as mayor, it's not making the same kind of splash internationally, is it? So
he's not on Jimmy Kimmel.
No, and he's on it now. And so it's not going to. It's going to take a while. And in fact, I would venture to say that it's going to be a very long time before people around the world stop making that connection between Toronto and this crazy mayor.
We also had the federal election recently, and we have a new chief, let's say, at the helm, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
Quickly, your take on him and what the impact will be on branding of Canada. Just last show, we had the mayor on here, and we talked with some conservatives here, and I presented the issue that Canada, with Justin, is now more Canadian. What's your take on what Canada's brand is now?
I think that is a very, very apt characterization of the way Canada would be perceived as more like Canada. Because I think Canadians didn't really recognize themselves when they looked in the mirror during the Harper years, especially towards the end of the Harper years. And I think when people, look at Justin Trudeau's policies and what he's doing so far, anyway, in its very, very early days, I do believe that they more so see themselves in the mirror.
So are you saying branding only works for Liberals, but not...
A brand is what people think of you. So the Conservatives and Stephen Harper established a very, very clear brand. And I remember seeing some other, was it a contest or an opinion poll, who's got the most powerful brand in Canada? Well, I would have argued a year ago that it was Rob Ford. It's not the best brand, the most progressive brand, but it's the strongest brand, at the time anyway, of any political figure in Canada.
Good, yeah.
Is it necessarily that people were talking about him? Like, does that become, you see in Hollywood, what's the word? It doesn't matter the news that you get or the problems you get into. If you're out there, you're out there. So Rob Ford at the time was out there all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he was out there everywhere.
He was everywhere. I mean, he's down on these shows in Hollywood.
So
everywhere.
Is branding about being a PR machine?
Well,
it's not essentially just that.
It can be. I mean, PR is an important part of branding, and I think you're getting close to saying that old expression. There's no such thing as bad PR. Well,
I think that's what I was trying to
ask Tiger Woods that question. Ask Jean Gomeshi that question.
Okay, yeah.
And see what their answer is.
Yeah.
There's definitely such a thing as bad PR, and Ford was that for Toronto.
Right, so the goal of branding isn't so much to get recognition. It has to leverage itself, translate, turn over into. Is it ultimately about funds received, about making the money, the corporate dollar? What do you tell your clients in terms of, great, we can do all this branding that we want? And I say this because people in town here, as I alluded to in the intro, business in town in Orangeville is doing well, but a lot of people are suffering. And when I ran for the election, I got to speak with a lot of people in town. And let me tell you, the business people, they would quietly tell you that things are not very good. They'd quietly tell you that their bottom line is below water. So branding ultimately amounts to what?
I think back to the very first course that I ever took in branding at U of T in circa 1998.
And that long ago.
And it's true. It's true. It's true. And and at that time, the discussion was around branding is about being able to earn more than you otherwise would get.
Okay.
It's about differentiating yourself in such a fashion that you're going to make more money. So I still think that there's, although that's not really the narrative about branding anymore, people don't, I just told you a brand is what people think of you, that's what I'm talking about. However, there is that, at the end of the day, that's a very, very important part of it, is actually making more money and differentiating yourself.
Well, isn't it around making sure that that brand is recognizable as something that is in line with what you want to achieve?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, it's how do you make that more money? Well, it's about defining internally how you are different. What are your unique strengths? What are your unique gifts as a person, as a corporation, as a town, as a city, whatever? Articulating that, defining that, making sure everyone's on the same page internally about who we are, where we're going, all that sort of stuff, and then projecting that message outward.
So ultimately, it's about. I'll use Orangeville. Many people shop at Walmart. They go to Walmart. They go to, and then small business owners are like, oh, everybody's going there. Everybody's going there. But is that then they haven't created a reason in their branding for you to go there, or they haven't got that message out.
The shopkeepers who are suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really, really good question. It's a very sensitive question because, I mean, I think a lot of small business owners would say, hey, Walmart's forget about 800-pound gorilla, the billion-pound gorilla. How am I supposed to compete with that?
Well, why do people go there? Why do people go to Walmart in general?
It's
Well, the
convenient.
pricing is very, very
Bottom line.
very
Bottom line,
important.
typically, right? Yeah. So that brand, if we jump onto the brand side, is clear. It is so clear. Everyone recognizes it where it goes. And for all the other small companies and the smaller organizations and smaller groups, and it's something I don't always like to start with the brand, but it's a great conversation way to lead to it. Are they that clear? Is their value, which is usually a higher price set of products or offerings than what you get at Walmart, is it that much clearer? Can customers identify with it and roll into it?
And they're going to have to compete on a basis other than cost.
Right.
Because Walmart is going to beat you on cost every time. So you're going to have to compete on another basis. You're going to have to position yourself, brand yourself on another basis. What is it? And it could very well be experience. You know, the experience of dealing with a local shopkeeper is different, very different than going to Walmart. That's
product.
very
Could
promising.
also,
Could be product. Could be product selection.
Go high quality product.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, Derek, you specialize. You teach at Schulich School. You graduated from York with an MBA. You have your engineering degree. You teach a course and where you talk about turnaround.
Yes, the purpose of that whole course is to look at restructuring and how to turn around. And the two key lessons that we like to hit on that one is, at the very beginning, when there's an organization or business that's in trouble, you do have to stop the bleeding first. So this, I think, is actually linking to the conversation we had earlier about our past Prime Minister. His whole brand was austerity. It was about controlling costs and getting things going. And people supported that for a while because there is a general recognition that we had to do that. We have to kind of bring things in and make it more stable. However, at the same time, you got to get that growth going. You got to get everybody in together and then rolling the
grease it.
Yeah, exactly. Get it all blowing up, get it all working, and that is now what Trudeau's kind of doing. He is pulling it ahead, and that clearly showed in the polls that people would see him more with growth than Harper was.
So, just in a political sense, Harper versus Justin. You look at the business cycle, whatnot. Whether Harper was on point and gained a lot of positive feedback and won people over. 10 years, was it just too much for Harper to be there? And when you consider business cycle, it was time for Justin to come in because he was just plain different in terms of wanting to grease those wheels, to create knit the social fabric back together, per se. Tell the world we're now here
ready
again.
to grow.
Right. We're open for business. And we're not here to... Now, I know there'd be a lot of my conservative friends that would take exception to what I'm saying. But go ahead.
Can I jump in on that? And again, this whole thing will be about branding because, again, in my estimation, with Facebook and all the social outlets out there that you see on Facebook, people are pounding down their opinions and they're quoting people. And many people I know, can't speak for everybody, but many people I know don't read up on all. So didn't read up on Harper's policies, didn't read up on Trudeau's. A lot of it's going by passion. Which ultimately then becomes the brand. And for some reason, to me, Harper became a liar, sneaky, infringing on people's benefits, and Trudeau was the opposite. Lack of a better word, Harper seems stiff. Whereas Trudeau appealed to this almost the way Obama did when he first came in. We're all going to do it now. It's a change, a major change. We're going back to human connection. We're going back. This is a new guy, and there was a vigor, even in his commercials, which is branding. Sure. Instead of the bashing, it became one of his last ones was rah rah. We're going to do it, and it even got me, and I was like, oh, maybe he's the guy.
And to get you is. It's a big deal.
You don't have to let us know how you voted.
So we got about 3 minutes left till our break. We're going to come back and talk about Harper and some ads and all that because we have you on the show here. You guys have good analysis about that. But Andrews, bring it back to us. So you talk about in your book CBO, being a chief branding officer. Can a small business within Orangeville, a town of 30,000 people, maybe having 1 or 2 hires or running by themselves, can they become a chief branding officer, or do you have to work for a big corporation?
Everyone can act as their own. You could be a brand of one as an individual and be your own CBO. You could be a small business. You could be a major multinational enterprise and be a CBO. It's about self-appointing as the chief brand officer. It may not be a title on your business card, but it's a state of mind. And it's about being responsible for delivery of the brand at every touch point. Because a brand is what people think of you, the number one rule of branding is be consistent. You have to be consistent or people won't know what to think. So in order to drive that consistency, you need someone at the top to take ultimate responsibility for watching delivery at every touch point. It doesn't mean that person needs to do everything. If you think about the example of Steve Jobs, you look at the product, which looks like the packaging, which looks like the ads, which looks like the stores, which looks like the advertising. It all looks the same. You can't arrive at that kind of brilliant consistency without one chief brand officer at the top. Why? Because someone in the ad department, if they're free, if they have too much free reign, or someone who's building out the retail stores, or someone who's working on the packaging, if they have too much free reign, they're going to become inconsistent. It's human nature. And if I could reference the book again, old friends are a brand's worst enemies. Old friends are a brand's worst enemies.
You're talking about three terrible enemies to have.
Well, it was old friends are a brand's worst enemies. Yeah. New friends are the next worst. Because old friends, people who are close to the brand, they see it all the time. They get sick of it. They get sick of their tagline or their logo or of Harper. Their whatever.
No, honestly.
And then, but you have to remember that your target audience isn't seeing, I could tell you a story about the Energizer Bunny, how the internal people got tired of it and they wanted to kill it. And they wanted to kill the bunny. Well, it's because they go home every night, they work with the bunny all day, then they go home at night and their kid's wearing bunny pajamas, and there's a bunny lantern and a bunny wallpaper and all that kind of stuff, and they want to kill the bunny. But, when the branding consultant says, no, you can't kill the bunny, it's because to your customers out there, it's just a nice reminder. It's not making them sick. So that's why old friends are brand's worst enemies. They get sick of it. The CBO, the responsibility of the CBO is to keep pounding away at that message until he or she thinks everyone is sick of it, and then keep going.
And I understand the question. We got to go in 30 seconds. You don't have to go to Schulich School of Business or Harvard to become a CBO.
No, read the book.
It is $14.95.
Okay, on that note, we're going to go to break. This is the book. There you go. There we go. Brand, it ain't the logo. It's what people think of you. Again, just before we go to break, again, a public service announcement. This Saturday, December 5th, if you're not doing anything, MAPS Public School in Mono is holding a pancake breakfast. And they'll be doing that to raise funds for their library and for the school in general. So if you got a chance, 9 o'clock to 11:30, come on out with that free $5 pancake breakfast. I'll be running the event, and come over and say hi. Okay, we're going to go to break. We'll see you in a bit.